This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Tremendous Trifles by G.K. Chesterton. Chapter 7. The Advantages of Having One Leg. A friend of mine, who was visiting a poor woman in bereavement, and casting about for some phrase of consolation that should not be considered either insolent or weak, said at last, "I think one can live through these great sorrows, and even be the better. What wears one is the little worries." "That's quite right, mum," answered the old woman with emphasis, "and I ought to know, seeing I've had 10 of 'em. It is perhaps in this sense that it is the most true that the little worries are the most wearing. In its vaguer significance, the phrase, though it contains a truth, contains also some possibilities of self-deception and error. People who have both small troubles and big ones have the right to say that they find the small ones the most bitter, and it is undoubtedly true that the back which is bowed under the loads incredible can feel a faint addition to those loads. A giant holding up the earth and all its animal creation might still find the grasshoppers a burden. But I am afraid that the maxim that the smallest worries are the worst is sometimes used or abused by people because they have nothing but the smallest worries. The lady may excuse herself for reviling the crumpled rose-leaf by reflecting with what extraordinary dignity she would wear the crown of thorns if she had to. The gentleman may permit himself to curse the dinner and tell himself that he would behave much better if it were a mere matter of starvation. We need not deny that the grasshopper on man's shoulder is a burden, but we need not pay much respect to the gentleman who is always calling out that he would rather have an elephant when he knows there are no elephants in the country. We may concede that a straw may break the camel's back, but we like to know that it really is the last straw and not the first. I grant that those who have serious wrongs have a real right to grumble, so long as they grumble about something else. It is a singular fact that if they are sane, they almost always do grumble about something else. To talk quite reasonably about your own quite real wrongs is the quickest way to go off your head. But people with great troubles talk about little ones, and the man who complains of the crumpled rose-leaf very often has his flesh full of thorns. But if a man has commonly a very clear and happy daily life, then I think we are justified in asking that he shall not make mountains out of molehills. I do not deny that molehills can sometimes be important. Small annoyances have this evil about them, that they can be more abrupt because they are more invisible. They cast no shadow before, they have no atmosphere. No one ever had a mystical premonition that he was going to tumble over a hassock. William III died by falling over a molehill. I do not suppose that with all his varied abilities he could have managed to fall over a mountain. But when all this is allowed for, I repeat that we may ask a happy man, not William III, to put up with pure inconveniences and even make them part of his happiness. Of positive pain or positive poverty I do not here speak. I speak of those innumerable accidental limitations that are always falling across our path. Bad weather, confinement to this or that house or room, failure of appointments or arrangements, waiting at a railway station, missing posts, finding unpunctuality when we want punctuality, or, what is worse, finding punctuality when we don't. It is of the poetic pleasures to be drawn from all these that I sing. I sing with confidence because I have recently been experimenting in poetic pleasures which arise from having to sit in one chair with a sprained foot, with the only alternative course of standing on one leg like a stork. A stork is a poetic simile, therefore I eagerly adopt it. To appreciate anything, we must always isolate it, even if the thing itself symbolizes something other than isolation. If we wish to see what a house is, it must be a house in some uninhabited landscape. If we wish to depict what a man really is, we must depict a man alone in a desert or on a dark sea sand. So long as he is a single figure, he means all that humanity means. So long as he is solitary, he means human society. So long as he is solitary, he means sociability and comradeship. Add another figure, and the picture is less human, not more so. One is company, two is none. If you wish to symbolize human building, draw one dark tower on the horizon. If you wish to symbolize light, let there be no star in the sky. Indeed, all through that strangely lit season which we call our day, there is but one star in the sky, a large, fierce star which we call the sun. One sun is splendid. 6 suns would be only vulgar. One tower of Giotto is sublime. A row of towers of Giotto would be only like a row of white posts. The poetry of art is in beholding the single tower, the poetry of nature in seeing the single tree, the poetry of love in following the single woman, the poetry of religion in worshipping the single star. And so, in the same pensive lucidity, I find the poetry of all human anatomy in standing on a single leg. To express complete and perfect leggishness, the leg must stand in sublime isolation, like the tower in the wilderness. As Ibsen so finely says, the strongest leg is that which stands most alone. This lonely leg on which I rest has all the simplicity of some Doric column. The students of architecture tell us that the only legitimate use of a column is to support weight. This column of mine fulfills its legitimate function. It supports weight. Being of an animal and organic consistency, it may even improve by the process, and during these last few days that I am thus unequally balanced, the helplessness or dislocation of the one leg may find compensation in the astonishing strength and classic beauty of the other leg. Mrs. Mountstuart Jenkinson, in Mr. George Meredith's novel, might pass by at any moment, and seeing me in the stork-like attitude, would exclaim with equal admiration and a more literal exactitude, "He has a leg!" Notice how this famous literary phrase supports my contentions touching this isolation of any admirable thing. Mrs. Mountstuart Jenkinson, wishing to make a clear and perfect picture of human race, said that Sir Willoughby Patterne had a leg. She delicately glossed over and concealed the clumsy and offensive fact that he had really 2 legs. 2 legs were superfluous and irrelevant, a reflection and a confusion. 2 legs would have confused Mrs. Mountstuart Jenkinson like 2 monuments in London. That having one good leg he should have another, this would be to use vain repetitions as the Gentiles do. She would have been as much bewildered by him as if he had been a centipede. All pessimism has a secret optimism for its object. All surrender of life, all denial of pleasure, all darkness, all austerity, all desolation, has for its real aim this separation of something, so that it may be poignantly and perfectly enjoyed. I feel grateful for the slight sprain which has introduced this mysterious and fascinating division between one of my feet and the other. The way to love anything is to realize that it might be lost. In one of my feet I can feel how strong and splendid a foot is. In the other I can realize how very much otherwise it might have been. The moral of the thing is wholly exhilarating. This world and all our powers in it are far more awful and beautiful than even we know, until some accident reminds us. If you wish to perceive that limitless felicity, limit yourself, if only for a moment. If you wish to realize how fearfully and wonderfully God's image is made, stand on one leg. If you want to realize the splendid vision of all visible things, wink the other eye. End of chapter 7.